When you think of gods, you might imagine beings of wisdom, grace, and harmony guiding the world with a divine presence. But in African mythology, the gods weren't always allies. In fact, many of the most powerful gods clashed in epic cosmic battles, not just for dominance, but for the very fate of humanity itself. These gods fought with fiery passion, driven by motives as varied as the desire for control, revenge, and even the need to protect or destroy humankind. Imagine gods wielding immense power, not as benevolent rulers, but as warriors battling for their beliefs, for their people, and for the right to shape the world as they saw fit. What drove these divine battles? Was it power? Was it vengeance? Or perhaps the protection of humanity from the forces of chaos? What did these gods fight for? And what consequences did their conflicts bring to the earth below and the heavens above? These are questions that echo through the myths and legends passed down for generations. In the following journey, we'll explore the legendary tales of these deities and the wars they waged. From the fiery clash of Sango and Ogun in the Yoruba tradition to the chaotic battle between Ewinsu and Allah in the Igbo world, the gods were not simply mythical figures. They were actors in a cosmic drama that shaped the very essence of the universe. But the battles weren't confined to just one culture or one myth. The Bantu, Dahomey, and Akan traditions are also rich with stories of divine wars, each with its own unique twist on power, creation, and destruction. These conflicts weren't just about the gods. They were about the world, about humanity, and the fine line between order and chaos. Let's dive into the incredible wars that shaped the destiny of the gods and ultimately humanity itself. The rivalry between Sango, the Yoruba god of thunder and lightning, and Ogun, the god of iron and war, is one of the most famous and dramatic stories in African mythology. Their conflict wasn't just a battle for power, it was a clash of ideals, two mighty forces representing opposing principles. Sango, known for his fiery temper and the uncontrollable wrath that he unleashed with each strike of lightning, embodied the chaos and destructive power of nature. His was a force of nature that could burn everything in its path, a symbol of uncontrollable energy and passion. Ogun, on the other hand, was the god of iron, strength, and warfare. He was steadfast, grounded in discipline and precision, a god of craftsmanship and endurance. Whereas Sango's fire would consume anything in its way, Ogun's iron was unyielding, strong, and built to last. The origins of the rivalry are rooted in their differing approaches to leadership and power. While Sango was often seen as impulsive and temperamental, eager to show his power through the violent force of nature, Ogun was methodical and strategic, a god of war who preferred to build and protect rather than destroy. The clash between them was inevitable as their views on how to wield power were incompatible. When the two gods finally met on the battlefield, it was a confrontation between fire and iron, chaos and order, passion and discipline. The battle itself was nothing short of epic. Sango unleashed his thunderous storms, hurling bolts of lightning at Ogun with the fury of a storm. But Ogun, wielding his mighty iron tools, stood firm, using his strength and discipline to counter Sango's fiery wrath. The conflict raged on, with the very earth trembling beneath their divine struggle. Neither god could claim victory outright, but the consequences of the clash were deeply felt. For humans, it was a reminder of the delicate balance between chaos and order, destruction and protection. Sango's fiery temper left scars in the earth, while Ogun's resilience brought about a new understanding of strength and endurance. The aftermath of this battle was not just a personal defeat or victory, but a symbolic victory of balance. The fire of Sango and the iron of Ogun, though fundamentally opposed, were necessary forces in the world. Through their struggle, both gods and humans alike learned the importance of balancing passion with discipline. The very nature of the battle, fire against iron, represented the necessity of both chaos and order in the world. While Sango's tempestuous energy remained, Ogun's iron-like resolve was also cemented, and it was this balance that allowed both forces to coexist, each playing their part in the larger cosmic order. The battle left a lasting impact, not only on the gods but on the people of Yoruba mythology, who saw in it the reflection of their own struggles with discipline, power, and the forces of nature. The fight between Sango and Ogun was a powerful reminder that the divine wars of the gods were not just about celestial conflicts. They were about the very forces that shaped the world of humans as well. The war between Ewinsu, the Igbo god of chaos, and Allah, the goddess of the earth, fertility, and morality, stands as a stark representation of the eternal struggle between order and disorder. Ewinsu, known for his unruly and disruptive nature, was the embodiment of chaos, often sowing discord and confusion wherever he went. He was a god who challenged the status quo, constantly testing the boundaries of the natural and moral order. Allah, in contrast, was a figure of stability, the goddess who governed the earth and all that was fertile, embodying morality and the balance that allowed life to flourish. Her realm was one of creation, nurturance, and sustenance. She represented the forces that ensured the earth remained fertile, the seasons flowed in harmony, and the moral fabric of society held strong. The conflict between these two powerful deities was inevitable, as their principles were diametrically opposed. Ewinsu, ever the disruptor, desired to break the bonds that held society together, often encouraging rebellion and defiance of the established rules. He sought to push the limits of what was acceptable, believing that through chaos, new possibilities and freedoms could emerge. Allah, on the other hand, was fiercely protective of the earth, its fertility, and the laws that governed both human and divine existence. To her, stability and order were sacred, and any threat to this equilibrium was an affront to the very foundation of life. The war between Ewinsu and Allah was not just a physical battle but a clash of ideologies. Destruction versus creation, rebellion versus order. Their battle shook the heavens and the earth. Ewinsu, with his cunning and unpredictable nature, unleashed a wave of turmoil, challenging the established boundaries of the world. He sought to create an environment where nothing was sacred and everything was in flux. Allah, however, with her unwavering commitment to the preservation of harmony, fought back with a determined resolve. She sought to restore order, to re-establish the balance between the spiritual and physical worlds that Ewinsu's chaos threatened to unravel. The war was fierce, as each deity used their divine powers to influence the natural world, with Ewinsu spreading disorder and Allah striving to rebuild the structures of life and morality. The result of their war was both a victory and a loss. Allah, despite Ewinsu's relentless challenges, ultimately prevailed, but the battle left a lasting impact on the Igbo worldview. Ewinsu, as a force of chaos, was not completely defeated. He remained a powerful figure who could still influence events and actions within the world, especially when boundaries were tested. His role in Igbo mythology was crucial, as he represented the forces that pushed against the limitations of society and the divine order, encouraging progress and growth. Allah's victory, however, reaffirmed the importance of balance, morality, and the need to preserve harmony in both the natural and spiritual realms. The consequences of the war reverberated through Igbo culture, where the balance between chaos and order became a central theme in their understanding of the world. Ewinsu's disruptive nature was acknowledged as necessary at times, for it was through challenge and upheaval that transformation could occur. But Allah's steadfast defense of order and stability was seen as vital to the survival of both the earth and the human spirit. Thus, the war between Ewinsu and Allah was not a simple battle of good versus evil, but a nuanced conflict that highlighted the delicate balance between creation and destruction, chaos and order, and the essential roles both play in the cosmic order. The story of Nyame, the supreme god of the Akan people, and his children's rebellion is one of divine ambition, familial conflict, and the eternal struggle for control over creation itself. Nyame, the creator god, was revered as the source of all life and the ruler of the heavens and the earth. His divine rule was absolute, and his children born of his power were expected to follow his commands and respect the natural order he had established. However, as time passed, the children of Nyame grew restless. They were powerful, ambitious, and increasingly discontent with their roles as mere subjects of their father's divine rule. Driven by a desire for greater autonomy and the urge to test their own strength, they decided to challenge Nyame's authority and wage a war for the right to rule over creation. The rebellion was not a simple family dispute. It was a battle for the very essence of creation. The children of Nyame, each with their own unique abilities, sought to overthrow their father's dominion and seize control of the heavens, the earth, and the forces that governed life itself. This war was fought on multiple fronts, with each child attempting to claim their place as the supreme ruler of the world. The clash was not only a war for power, but a philosophical battle over how creation should be governed. Nyame, in his divine wisdom, had ruled with balance, maintaining the order of nature, the cosmos, and the lives of his people. His children, however, sought to impose their own vision of the world, one that would reflect their individual desires and ambitions. The war between Nyame and his rebellious children was fierce, shaking the very foundations of the universe. The heavens trembled as the gods battled for control, and the earth below felt the ripple effects of their conflict. Nyame, with his supreme power, initially seemed to have the upper hand. However, as the battle raged on, it became clear that the rebellion could not be easily quelled. Each of Nyame's children, in their pursuit of power, caused shifts in the cosmic balance, creating chaos and disrupting the order that Nyame had carefully established. The consequences of the rebellion were far-reaching, not just for the gods, but for the very fabric of existence. The earth became unsteady, and the forces of nature seemed to lose their harmony as each child sought to assert their dominance. In the end, Nyame's children were forced to recognize the consequences of their actions. The war did not end in a clear victory, but it did result in a significant shift in the power dynamics of the Akan cosmology. Nyame, though ultimately victorious in reasserting his rule, could no longer rule with the same unchallenged authority. The rebellion had changed the way the gods and humans viewed power, creation, and the divine order. Nyame's children learned that while ambition and the desire for power were natural, they could not simply overthrow the cosmic balance without repercussions. The war showed them that creation itself was a delicate harmony, and to disrupt it was to risk the destruction of everything they sought to control. The rebellion also had lasting implications on the Akan people's worldview. It reinforced the idea that while power could be contested, the ultimate authority rested in maintaining balance and respecting the natural order. Nyame, as the creator, was not only the ruler of the heavens, but also the custodian of the harmony that allowed life to flourish. His children's rebellion served as a powerful lesson about the dangers of unchecked ambition and the importance of understanding that true power lies not in domination, but in the ability to preserve creation and maintain harmony within the cosmos. The cosmic wars within the Bantu tradition are deeply rooted in the belief that the divine forces governing the universe are in a constant struggle, each vying for control over the elements that sustain life. Among the most significant of these divine conflicts was the war between the sun god, the moon god, and the spirits of nature. In the Bantu cosmology, the sun and the moon were seen not just as celestial bodies, but as powerful deities, each with their own dominion over the forces of life. The sun god was revered for his warmth, light, and life-giving energy, while the moon god, though often seen as a quieter, more reflective force, had sway over the tides and the rhythms of life, including the cycles of fertility and death. These gods, though complementary in many ways, found themselves locked in a conflict over the balance of the world and the distribution of power. At the heart of this struggle was the belief that the elements of nature, earth, water, fire, and air, were interconnected and must remain in harmony. The sun god, in its intensity and dominance, sought to control the vast energy of the cosmos, believing that his light was the source of all creation. In contrast, the moon god, whose power was subtler but no less essential, sought to preserve the balance, maintaining the natural rhythms and cycles that allowed life to thrive. Their war was not just a battle of might, but a conflict of philosophies. The sun god, desiring to expand his reign, versus the moon god, striving to maintain equilibrium. The spirits of nature, often personified as ancestral spirits or natural forces, took sides, either supporting one god or the other, further deepening the conflict. This battle wasn't just one for celestial dominance, but for the very soul of the world itself. The Bantu view of this cosmic struggle was rooted in the understanding that balance and harmony were essential to the world's survival. Each deity, with their own unique powers, played a crucial role in the maintenance of the universe. The sun and moon, though at odds, were both necessary for the world to function. Their war, however, threatened to upset the natural order, as the elements themselves began to shift and become unstable. Seasons began to change unpredictably, crops failed, and the very rhythm of life seemed to falter as the gods clashed. The spirits of nature, who had long been the guardians of the earth's balance, struggled to keep the peace. But the increasing strife between the sun and moon gods left them with little room to mediate. The war itself mirrored the human struggle with nature, the way humans must navigate the forces of life and death, good and evil, creation and destruction. Just as the gods battled for control over the elements, humans too must contend with the unpredictable forces of nature, seeking to find harmony within the chaos. The result of this cosmic war was not a clear victory for one deity over the other. Instead, the Bantu tradition teaches that the war was a reminder of the need for constant vigilance in maintaining balance. The sun and moon, though rivals, came to understand that neither could exist in absolute dominance over the other. Their conflict brought forth a deeper appreciation for the need to respect the natural cycles and the forces that govern the world. The spirits of nature too realized that their role was not to choose sides, but to protect the harmony of the world by mediating between these powerful deities. The cosmic wars of the Bantu gods thus reflect the eternal struggle for balance within nature. A battle that is not always won, but must always be fought to ensure the survival of life itself. This struggle between the divine forces mirrors the challenges humans face in the relationship with nature, constantly balancing between creation and destruction, good and evil, order and chaos. In the ancient kingdom of Dahomey, the divine and earthly realms were tightly interwoven, and the gods played an active role in shaping the fate of their people. Olaroon, the supreme god of the Dahomey pantheon, was the ruler of the heavens, the sun, and the universe. He embodied light, power, and authority. But his rule was constantly threatened by forces that sought to disrupt the natural order and the societal stability he had established. Olaroon's divine authority was not just symbolic. It was a force that directly influenced the lives of his people, including the legendary Amazon warriors who were chosen by the gods themselves to protect the kingdom from external and internal threats. These warrior women, revered for their unmatched skill in battle and fearlessness, were believed to be under the direct guidance and protection of the gods, particularly Olaroon, whose divine power was said to empower them in their fight for survival. The confrontation between Olaroon and the dark forces that sought to destroy Dahomey was not merely one of physical combat, but a battle for the survival of the divine order itself. The enemies of Dahomey were not just human invaders, but dark spirits and deities that represented chaos, destruction, and disorder. These forces threatened to destabilize the kingdom, attacking both the material world and the spiritual realm. The Dahomey gods, led by Olaroon, rallied against these disruptive forces, seeking to protect their people and maintain the sacred balance between the human world and the divine. The Amazon warriors, under Olaroon's divine guidance, fought alongside their gods, defending the land and the people with a ferocity that made them one of the most formidable military forces in history. These women warriors were not only skilled in combat, but were seen as vessels of divine power, their actions in battle guided by the gods to ensure the protection of their land. The battle between the Dahomey gods and the disruptive forces was not just a fight for territory, it was a fight for the survival of the kingdom's divine order. The Amazon warriors, acting as the earthly instruments of Olaroon's will, engaged in fierce battles against invaders and supernatural entities. Their prowess in battle was not just due to their training, but because they believed their strength came directly from the gods, and particularly from Olaroon, whose light guided them through the darkest of times. These divine warriors fought for the continuity of the spiritual order, to ensure that the forces of chaos could not unseat the balance that had been carefully cultivated over generations. The war was a clash between divine protection and the destructive forces that sought to undermine the very foundation of the Dahomey society. In the end, the warriors' victories were symbolic of the triumph of order over chaos, of divine protection over destruction. Under the watchful guidance of Olaroon, the Dahomey gods ensured the survival of their people, preserving their culture and way of life. The Amazon warriors became not only a symbol of strength and courage, but of the divine intervention that guided and protected the kingdom. The gods' involvement in the battle reflected the central role that divine forces played in the survival of Dahomey, where the protection of the land and the people was seen as a direct reflection of the gods' will. Through their victories, the warriors and their gods reinforced the belief that the divine order was essential for the survival of the human world, and the gods would always fight to defend it against any force that threatened to disrupt the natural harmony. The divine wars of African mythology are not merely tales of gods clashing for supremacy. They are profound reflections of the eternal struggle between order and chaos, creation and destruction. From the fiery conflict between Sango and Ogun, where fire met iron in a battle for dominance, to the cosmic battles of the Bantu gods, where balance was fought for between the sun and moon, each tale offers a glimpse into the complex relationships that governed the natural world. The stories of Ewinsu and Allah and Nyame's rebellious children reveal how the forces of chaos and order, though opposing, are both essential to the fabric of existence. These divine conflicts also mirror human struggles with nature, morality, and the forces of good and evil, reminding us that the battles fought by the gods are not just distant mythological events. They resonate deeply with the challenges we face today. The war between the gods was not always a fight for power, but a fight to preserve or reshape the world and its divine order. Whether through the destructive forces of chaos or the disciplined efforts of creation, these wars emphasized the importance of balance, both in the heavens and on earth. In the end, the gods may have fought fiercely, but they also left humanity with profound lessons: the need for harmony, the consequences of unchecked ambition, and the eternal dance between creation and destruction. As these divine conflicts echo through the myths and stories of African cultures, they continue to remind us that the balance between opposing forces, whether within ourselves or in the world around us, is a constant, sacred struggle. The gods may no longer walk among us, but their stories endure, guiding us as we navigate our own battles for survival, order, and meaning in an ever-changing world. If you've enjoyed exploring these epic tales of the gods, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that uncover the rich myths and legends from across Africa and beyond.